Unemployment claims in Colorado are stacking up by the hundreds for federal workers out of work as the president tries to fire some and threatens not to pay others.
This one really is unique.
The math didn't math on so-called free school lunches, so voters statewide have a choice to make on the ballots out now. Coloradans just lost their eyes on the road in more than 100 spots.
It can get hairy. It can be a very tricky road.
And this state has made amazing progress on preventing youth suicide, but the calls for help still outpace the funding for free therapy for kids in crisis. We're going to help fix that tonight, because you don't just watch, because this is next. It's day 15 of anxiety and uncertainty for the tens of thousands of Coloradans who work for the federal government. Day 15 of the government shutdown, as today a federal judge temporarily blocked the Trump administration's plan to use the shutdown as cover to fire workers. Colorado's unemployment office is currently being flooded with claims from furloughed and laid off federal employees. They have a special team trying to process them all quickly. More than 2,000 claims have come in since the Trump administration began purging the federal workforce earlier this year. Nearly half came in the past 2 weeks. State Labor Department leaders say this shutdown is more complicated than past ones.
This shutdown is unique because you have a combination of not only those job attached or furloughed workers, but you have workers who may have found themselves jobless through other federal workforce reductions that have occurred over recent months.
Furloughed federal workers will have to pay back their unemployment benefits once the government reopens and they get their back pay. But President Trump has said he thinks that some federal workers don't deserve to get the back pay. While many federal workers are still on the job without pay during the shutdown, the Trump administration did work out a way to pay military employees for the time being. Yet the impact is still clear when you visit the Buckley Air Force Base food pantry. With fewer federal employees in general getting paychecks, there are more people looking for support. And since the start of the shutdown, the Buckley Spouses Alliance has started rationing food assistance to families so they can meet all the demand.
Our numbers have greatly increased. We are almost double the amount of patrons that are coming through our doors. And we are also doubling the amount of food that is going out our doors. And that is actually, we're not getting enough food in to help.
And we continue to keep hearing of new shutdown impacts at other food banks, like in Boulder. Harvest of Hope tells us they're not able to place new orders with the Federal Emergency Food Assistance Program so long as the shutdown continues. Here at the state level, free school lunches, of course, have never been free. They are just taxpayer-funded school lunches. And that is why your ballot this year asks you 2 questions about how to keep funding them. Our Marshall Zellinger looks at the math.
Consider Proposition LL as fixing an oops. Not an intentional oops, more like it's hard to estimate money into the future oops.
The state constitution requires the Blue Book Guide to estimate how much money a tax change will bring in for the state. When voters were given the Blue Book in 2022 for Proposition FF, the original Healthy School Meals for All, they were told it would bring in $100.7 million in the first year. It brought in $112 million. Plus interest, the state took in $12.3 million more than voters were shown. With Proposition LL, the state is asking permission to keep that money. A no vote means that money needs to be refunded back to the taxpayers whose taxes went up because of Proposition FF. Those are the 192,000 taxpayers who earn more than $300,000, which brings us to Proposition MM. In 2022, when voters approved higher taxes for those earning more than $300,000 to pay for free school meals for all, it turned out to not be enough money for everything Proposition FF promised because of the number of students who took part and because of food inflation. FF promised school meals for all, raises for school cafeteria workers, locally sourced foods, and food prep training for staff. The money FF brought in was not even enough for the school meals part. MM asks voters to increase the taxes paid by those making more than $300,000 to cover school meals for all and the other promises so far not kept by FF. A yes vote also allows money from the new taxes to help pay for SNAP food assistance for low-income families. Colorado expects to have to cover more costs for SNAP food assistance because of the budget bill passed by Congress in D.C. A no vote means the taxes will not increase for those high earners. School meals will only be free for low-income students. It also means the state will have to figure out how to fund SNAP food assistance with existing state money.
In your Blue Book, it explains the different scenarios of LL and MM. If both were to pass, if one or the other doesn't, it makes for really funny math combinations, and each of the three scenarios means different things. If you want to look through the charts, it's a bit complicated, but I think I've summarized enough. I'll say I talked to budget people, Kyle, who tell me that even with the new money in MM, it's possible all the promises of FF into the future might not be fully funded.
I will say I understand why the adoption rate, the number of kids opting in for this, is high now that I have two kids in school and they're like, I want a lunch from home. And I'm like hell you are. I paid for your lunch at school. Enjoy it. You know, I can't be the only parent doing that.
And that's where the math gets wonky because it's all dependent on how many people actually opt in. You can guess how many kids might accept the free breakfast and or lunch, but until you know how many did, you don't know what these districts are supposed to be reimbursed. And that's where it's going to be like this into the future.
And I will say, I also respect the fact that they didn't create a slush fund so large that it's way over demand, but obviously they came in so close to the margin, they're coming back to ask, and they may have to ask again.
Right, it's even in the Blue Book that says if MM is underestimating and they bring in more money, like in the future, we're gonna have another one of these, oh, we got $8 million more than we thought, we have to ask your permission to use it.
Yeah, and in the meantime, the Clark girls better be jazzed about whatever's on that school menu 5 days a week. Marshall Zellinger, thank you. Here's a live look at conditions at the tunnel tonight, for no reason other than to remind you that the state has this camera system that allows us constant live looks at our highways. More than 100 of those cameras, though, are now offline after a government contract ended over the summer. Our Evan Krugel takes us to the top of Berthoud Pass to explain how this could get dicey come winter.
The road from Denver to Winter Park is filled with hair-raising turns. And when the snow flies on US 40, locals describe it like this.
It can get hairy. You know, it can be a very tricky road.
Brian Sirk-Venek is the mayor of Fraser, but also runs a transportation company, driving people from the Denver airport to Grand County.
We are on co-trip every day, all day. Those cameras are very helpful. It is a little disappointing to hear that they're not going to be up this year.
Over the summer, CDOT says a contract with a company called LiveView ended and was not renewed. 136 cameras that used to be visible online, including 5 on US 40, are now offline.
That has a big impact on us.
Terry Martela likes to ski at Winter Park and says not being able to see this road may change those plans.
To me, they're very important for travel, especially in the winter and with ski season approaching.
We understand the concern of the loss of these cameras for a lot of the folks who rely on them, especially in those more remote communities.
Stacia Sellers says to limit the impact, they've placed a temporary camera at the top of Berthoud Pass.
The mobile setup is currently being operated via solar power. So of course that can pose some challenges. And again, that's just a temporary solution. The camera is currently on a trailer, which isn't the best case scenario.
CDOT says it plans to replace about half of the cameras and operate them in-house over the next 2 years.
Hopefully we get cameras before then, because I don't want to go 2 winters without cameras.
Drivers can still view this map of road conditions, but if you prefer to see things with your own eyes, this grainy image might be your only way to see what you're driving into on Berthoud Pass.
Now, CDOT says it still has over 1,000 cameras operational across the state, and they say a number of the ones that are now offline were redundant because of other cameras they already have nearby. Now, Kyle, they say that company wasn't great at getting cameras back online in remote areas when they failed. They're hoping bringing this back in-house moving forward will be better in the long run, even if it means a few cameras offline for the next 2 years.
I'm curious about why they let this contract lapse. Is it a matter of CDOT being as cheap as the dad who forces his kids to eat the free school lunch, or were they not satisfied with the service?
Yeah, CDOT says it was a mix of both. They did not like the service they were getting. That company took too long to put cameras back online and even installed some cameras in places without service, so those cameras never worked from day one. They also did not like what that company wanted them to pay them moving forward, So they decided it would be cheaper to bring it in-house. Kind of like making lunch at home for you, Kyle.
Precisely. Our PB&J is all they're getting. All right. Evan Krugel, thank you. Colorado's youth suicide rates are at their lowest point in nearly 2 decades. It's really encouraging progress, with much work yet to do because our state's overall suicide rate is still one of the 10 worst in the country. That is why this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports the Second Wind Fund. That nonprofit connects young people in Colorado who are in crisis with licensed specialized therapists. And if cost is a barrier, and it often is, the Second Wind Fund will pay for up to a dozen therapy sessions. They tell me that the stigma around therapy these days is far lower, and that's great. But it also means that they are swamped with requests for help paying for therapy, and they can't meet them all. They will be able to meet more with our help. Every $1,000 that we raise together means another young person in crisis in Colorado will be told, yes, we can cover the cost of your mental health care. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491. We'll send you that link to donate. Your 5 years of microgiving, raising $16 million plus, proves that $5 donations really do add up. And I will never sit here on TV and ask you to just give your money. So as always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us rolling. More than 6,000 of you have signed up to make a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. Put in your info once. Each month, your donations automatically split among all the nonprofits we feature. In a month like this, with 5 weeks of giving, that means we start with about $30,000 in donations. That is 30 more yeses to kids in crisis. I don't want to say that I am nostalgic about a lie and its consequences, but I'll have a word 16 years after the Balloon Boy hoax about how it represented a different time in this country.
White Cane Day is like for me, it's the celebration of like every blind kid.
White Cane Day, all about courage and tenacity. We will take you there next. The most Colorado thing we saw today was actually something that we lost sight of. Heavy fog on the northeast side of town this morning, enough so that a plane landing at DIA gradually became invisible to the lens of photographer Paul Thompson. Chris Bianchi, that is wild. Can we watch it again? Just hang out with me for a second. This is wild stuff. I mean, clear blue skies on the one side, and then in comes this United plane, and then just gradually it goes into the soup, as we like to talk about around here, Bianchi. It goes into the soup.
And goodbye. And by the way, Kyle, at one point, there were 5 straight go-arounds. That's when you're coming in, and the plane has to go back up and go around. At one point, between 8:30 and 9:30 this morning, quarter-mile visibility. Ugh.
Yeah.
Soup weather. Soup weather out there at the airport. And by the way, this is what caused it here. This morning, we had a 54-degree dew point. In fact, right now, we're at about 52, 53. Why does that matter? This October the 15th, the muggiest, most humid October day in Denver weather history. 54-degree dew point, highest by far October dew point on record for us here in Denver. That's fueling that threat for some strong storms for us across Colorado. Unusually late for us to be talking about storms like this, but we've got some of them flaring on up across southern Colorado. Flash flood warning, by the way, Archuleta County right near Pagosa Springs. In Denver right now, things are quiet. Next few hours, though, storms will move in from the south and west. Damaging winds going to be our main concern over the next few hours. If you're going to Red Rocks tonight, bring the rain jacket with you. Any outdoor plans will have the chance for a storm tonight. Otherwise, 7-day forecast, pretty quiet weather over the next couple of days. We will cool down, watching for a first frost and first freeze over the next couple of days.
It's been 16 years since a 6-year-old boy floated over Colorado in a runaway balloon. Except it wasn't true. Balloon Boy was a hoax. But first responders, National Guard, and the media all had to scramble as if it was real.
And while there's so much that we don't know at this point, we do know what we just saw there on the ground. And if Marty, if I had asked you hours ago that a rescuer would nearly be in position to catch the thing as it lands in a field.
You have to really credit these emergency responders. I mean, they were on the spot, on the ground, ready to go. And a tremendous effort on their part. We hope that it's not for naught.
Our former colleague Marty Caniglio there, Kim Christensen, and some child anchoring the news coverage 16 years ago today. Reflecting on the Balloon Boy hoax today, it made me wish for simpler lies and for consequences for them. Now, I'm not foolish enough to believe that there was ever an era when all the lies were simpler and less harmful, but lies and hoaxes have become so much part of our everyday lives, our everyday politics, our everyday, that a family lying about a boy in a balloon just trying to get famous for a reality TV show, I mean, that almost feels innocent by comparison. It wasn't totally innocent. I mean, let's be straight about that. The balloon boy hoax could have gotten a first responder hurt in the race to keep up with that balloon. It was a huge waste of resources. But it wasn't like the lies that turn Americans against each other in hate and anger, the lies that make people fear for their lives, the lies that ruin lives, other than those of the liars. So thinking back on the balloon boy fiasco, it also makes me nostalgic for consequences for liars, when getting caught was often a source of shame, of scorn, of real repercussions, rather than just a slingshot toward power and profit. The parents behind that prank eventually apologized to first responders, and they were convicted of crimes. And then they moved on without the fame and attention that they had been seeking. I don't wish for another balloon boy hoax, but I do wish we would stop rewarding liars. Kids are kids, right? They want friends, they want to feel safe, they want to have fun, and today they did. We will go to White Cane Day next. The white cane, used by our neighbors with vision issues, can carry stigma, but it's also a symbol of freedom for the blind and visually impaired. Our Byron Reed takes us to an event about that white cane and all it means.
Sometimes going for a walk can build self-confidence.
Yeah, enough.
But for 7th grader Owen Gutenplan,
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather run.
Today's journey is about erasing a stigma.
It's important so people know when they see a white cane, it's not like disability.
Just pay attention and join the parade as those classes are walking by, okay?
He's participating in a walk to honor White Cane Day, a national celebration to raise awareness of people who are blind or visually impaired.
My left is undeveloped, so it's a prosthetic. Then my right, I have 20% of my vision.
Gutenplan is walking with other students from Denver Public Schools, along with preschoolers and alumni from the Anchor Center for Blind Children.
We have some kids with low vision who might have progressive conditions, and we have a few kids with no vision, so it's a wide spectrum.
Allison Alterman is a teacher of students with visual impairments at the center. She believes the event can boost their independence.
We had students last year who really, after White Cane Day, before they were a little hesitant to use their canes out in the community, and after meeting some older kids who were really cool and they could look up to, they gained so much confidence and started asking to use their canes in public, which is amazing.
Walking, I forget what his name is, but...
Gutenplan was born with visual impairments, so he feels the day is about helping others.
I feel like I should put myself to work because, if I can, I will.
For students like Owen, the walk is a reminder.
I do enjoy seeing other people with their canes.
Of the importance of a white cane and the independence it can bring.
It's the celebration of every blind kid coming together and hanging out and talking.
For Next, I'm Byron Reed.
Spicy feedback next. When young people are at risk of suicide, the Second Wind Fund quickly connects them with a licensed therapist and pays for it if necessary. But that nonprofit can't meet current demand. We can help. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491. Every $1,000 we raise allows them to fund 10 therapy sessions for a young person that we need to stay around until life gets better. William writes in to say that I am scamming the system by allowing my children to eat cafeteria food. For real?